Hey guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here. Guys, I have such a good show for you today. I'm covering Betrayal. Okay, let's talk. So, this is my favorite chapter I've hit so far. In every other video, I've done multiple chapter, usually 2 chapters. Last one I did 3. This time I'm sticking to 1 because this chapter is juicy. So, I'm covering chapter 9, Freedom. And there's a lot of new information. Every page I have notes to myself, and I have a little system of if something's interesting or new information, I mark it and star it and all that. And every page I have something written. So I'm excited to dive into this one with you all. If you're new here, I'm Jen. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the thumbs up, and leave me comments, as all of those helps YouTube to recommend my videos. I sincerely appreciate that. As I keep saying, I'm going to be looking down because I have so many notes on this one. I want to make sure I get it right. Normally I try to look at the camera. I'm just letting you know that I'm looking down at my notes on this one. All right, let's talk. Freedom. All right. Is that like the George Michael song? Maybe. Okay. Woo, this was juicy. So this one kind of goes, I'm not going to cover the parts we already know. I'm more interested in the new information, but the timeline is about the time it was after Sandringham. So the last chapter was about Sandringham, and then it was Vancouver and their transition to California, their ultimate goal, right? Let's talk about some of the juicy stuff that Tom Bauer says. So again, I'm on chapter 9, Freedom, picking up about page 74 if you're trying to follow along in your book. And I keep getting asked, how do you get the book in America? I wish I could help you. I don't know. I have a magical fairy godmother behind the scenes that helped me. I'd pulled some strings. It was Greg Davis. Okay. No, I'd had some people behind the scenes help me get this book. So thank you for that. But I don't know. I'm hearing delays in America. So keep trying though. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. And I want to get Tom Bauer to #1. So make sure that if you are interested in picking up a copy that you do. But in the meantime, let's keep going. Chapter 9, page 74. So I have some stuff like right off the bat underlined. I want to talk about this. Hypocrisy. That always fascinates me with Harry and Meghan. That seems to be a common theme with those two, and I'm always intrigued by it because it's always, again, that's a lot of always, but it's do as I say, don't do as I do, or yeah, that's the expression. I had to think about that. Anyway, it's, climate change, eco-warriorism. I fly private, but I have to because of security. I mean, it's just a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of the media is trying to silence us. I hate the media while running to the media, just stuff like that. Well, in this case, they were talking about, there's a quote from Harry on page 74, and the quote says, quote, "It's amazing what people will do when offered a huge amount of money." And what he's talking about there is that was his quote in regard to Thomas Markle Sr., Meghan's dad, accepting $1,500 to stage those paparazzi pics, the ones right before the wedding. So Harry was disgusted. Meghan was disgusted by that, of course. And that was Harry's quote. And again, hello, hypocrisy, thy name is Harkle, because that's all they do. So there was a lot of stuff like that. His hypocrisy, saying things like that, and then immediately jumping in. They talk about that. I mean, literally within hours of the Sandringham summit, Meghan had arranged, I believe it says that she had talked to her business manager agent in Los Angeles who assured her a contract with Netflix. So again, it was just all in the works, right? And then they got Harry, her name was Jennifer. Jennifer, a William Morris Endeavor literary agent for Harry, to go ahead and start the book. So that was what the focus of this time was. The whole thing was they needed to scrounge to get money because they wanted to secure a house in California. Well, this just shows you where we're at. Well, before I switch to that, because I do want to talk about what they did to get the house in California, I want to talk about this. So again, going back to the hypocrisy angle. So a big point of this and a big point of this the whole book is Harry's aiming to damage the royal family as much as he possibly could. That was his whole MO. He just wanted to do as much damage as he could. So his agent pitched this 3-book deal, and they were all told Harry would need a ghostwriter. And the way that that was worded was really funny to me because, yeah, people don't want to read books in crayon. So, of course, Harry needs a ghostwriter. But they were complaining that Meghan's dad was giving these interviews at the same time and talking to TV about, the situation and his pleas for her to get in contact. Well, again, hypocrisy angle. In the meantime, she's then working toward these magazine interviews and gave interviews to Vogue, People, Oprah, Netflix, you know the deal. So she was going through and doing that when they were not supposed to be doing that sort of thing because of the Sandringham agreement. So again, hypocrisy, nothing new for the two of them. All right. Another thing that Tom Bower goes into is their claim of arriving in America penniless. Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? So Tom Bower says that's, quote, inaccurate, that not only had Harry inherited over 10 million pounds from his mother and grandmother, Meghan had saved about 2 million. So I would like to know details of that. Where'd that 2 million come from? Are we talking about Suits money? I can't imagine it's that still. And are we talking like, is that a royalty from Suits? I'd like to know. Again, I can't imagine it's that much. Maybe it was. And then I'd like to know, did any of that come from the royal family, the time with the royal family? Where'd that come from? Okay. So 2 million from her, 10 million plus pounds from Harry. Their agents were promising multi-million-dollar advances on their projects. Again, think about the difference then versus now and how the cash was flowing in. So they probably always thought it was going to flow in. And now I can't imagine. I'm not in their finances, but I can't imagine that's the case. It doesn't seem like it would be the case still. So they go again. Bower likes to focus on the hypocrisy as well, which I get the psychology of it. It's fascinating. So not hours before in Sandringham, he had been promising loyalty to the crown and not financially exploiting his royal status. But of course, that proved to be worthless, like everything else that they say. This was one of my favorite quotes of the book. Are you ready for this? Because I know this would burn Meghan more than most things. You ready? So on page 76, Tom Bower refers to Meghan and says, quote, marriage had transformed an unemployed, virtually unknown actress into a global celebrity. Although she probably wouldn't even pay attention to the first part of that statement. She'd be like, I'm a global celebrity. Maybe notorious is a better way to say that, but that was pretty funny. All right. So again, he's kind of bouncing around the time that they were leaving Vancouver. Harry had been warned that he was losing 24-hour security, and then he proceeded to act shocked. It sounds like the palace had warned him that was going to happen. He acted shocked and called them vipers. Nice, right? Nice. He thought they deserve it. Just like we're seeing now, however many years later, not learning. They deserve it. Why? They don't know. They just deserve it. Their truth, right? Okay. So this was dark. So Meghan had been working with that, however you say her name, Kaylee. It's KTM. So it's like Kelly. I have her name written down here somewhere. It doesn't matter. She's the one from Sunshine Sacks that was helping Meghan kind of with representation and stuff. Well, the two decided, I'm on page 77, the two agreed, quote, that Meghan should appeal for help. And what they're talking about there is for housing. Figure out housing in California, because at that point they just had that cash, but they knew it'd take a lot more to secure housing in the areas where they wanted to live in California. So unlike Most people who, if you don't have the money for a house, you save up for it or you figure out, you don't buy it. Not these two. So again, according to Tom Bauer, Meghan in this KTM decided, quote, that Meghan should appeal for help as the target of the royal family's racism. Just let that sink in. It's not new information, but the way that worded, I think that's worded is so interesting to me because this was a story as a lot of us assume, she had cooked up and used to her advantage, but you can just see it here. She's cooking it up with other people as well, and again, using it to her advantage. Unbelievable. So the other thing that Tom goes into in this part is that when Tyler Perry sent that plane, right, and they were dramatically leaving for California, right, was that the Freedom flight? That may have been the London flight. I don't care. The flight. Harry whips out his phone and says, "Good morning," and talks about, I don't know, 6 a.m., whatever, that flight. Well, turns out that Netflix, okay, so the Los Angeles agent figured out that Netflix would probably pay a lot more if they had hours of footage like that. So they had been tipped off to do things like that. So those impromptu moments where they're like overjoyed and they're filming and stuff on their phones, yeah, they were told to do that to bilk more money out of Netflix. How's Netflix feeling about that now, huh? Whew. All right. Then Tom Bauer reminds us all that, kind of like she did when he proposed to her. And he goes into how she's been collecting videos all along, which leads me to think about, again, I'm just speculating. Tom doesn't say this. This is just where my mind goes. I think about Amber Heard. I think there's so many similarities with Meghan and Amber Heard. And I wonder again, this is just me wondering aloud. I wonder what, if any, videos does Meghan have on Harry, just in case, like this stuff. If she's banking videos just in case, what would she have on him? Can you imagine living like that? No, thank you. Okay. Continuing on, this was great. So Tom Bauer points out that Princess Anne had predicted to a friend of hers, he doesn't say who, but just a friend of hers, exactly what ended up following, which was that Meghan was gripped by, quote, red carpet fever. There you go. I love Princess Anne, of course. Of course she was. So again, the two were just not worried about the things that Harry had promised in Sandringham, him that he would not financially exploit his family. Of course, everything we know of them, that's exactly what they do. That's when they started up the office of Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So immediately trading in on these titles and planning to do business with, using that. They talk about Montecito. They felt like that was perfect because, quote, status was vital to the Sussexes. So all about the status. They thought Montecito was the right mix of actors, Hollywood producers, industrialists, and TV celebrities. That's where their priorities are. Let's ditch all the family and look for that. This was interesting. Okay, let's talk about that house. Because I always wondered how did that work? Why that house? What's the deal? What's the deal? I always say it like that because Seinfeld, what's the deal with the house? All right. So apparently they picked that house because it was a Russian owner's fire sale. So the price was listed at 14.65 million, which translates to roughly 11 million pounds, but it was reduced from 34 million, which they saw as a bargain. So the Sussexes paid 5 million in cash and raised a $9.5 million mortgage. So I always wondered about this. Why take out a mortgage? But I mean, I guess their lifestyle's so expensive, and then their payments and stuff. I don't know. I just wonder, how does that stand now? Once they made those big fat paychecks, did they end up paying it off? Do they still have that mortgage? I would be curious to know that. But again, I want to remind you all the hypocrisy because Harry was claiming that his father had cut him off financially, and they told Oprah that they had arrived without any money. You know, when you arrive without any money and you buy a, what did I just say? Whatever, $15 million house. Sure. You put down 5 million in cash. Yep. That's a thing. No money, huh? Okay. Oh, this was interesting. So I don't really want to dive too deep into this because it's kind of a sensitive, yucky subject, but I'm just going to graze over it. So if it's going to bug you, maybe fast forward this part. It has to do with miscarriage, unfortunately. Okay. So I don't like to go into health stuff with people. I've said before my opinion. It sounds fishy to me, especially with the changing of the stories, but I just don't like to speculate on people's medical stuff. So I'll let you decide what you want to decide on this. But I thought it was interesting. And again, as I've mentioned, the beauty of Tom Bauer is not just in what he says, it's what he doesn't say and lets you decide for yourself. So you can decide this for yourself. Are you ready? Okay. So they did this journey to freedom, right? And they got this new house. Well, I didn't know that supposedly it was, quote, I'm on page 79, the first morning after they moved into this new house that Meghan claims that she suffered a miscarriage. Harry went on to publicly say, do you remember this? That the cause had to do with that Mail on Sunday's publication of Meghan's letter to her father. That's what they say caused it. Okay. I thought this was brilliant of Tom Bauer. So now we've had time pass. We've had other extraordinary claims by Meghan, including, remember, more recently, she claims that she had preeclampsia during her first pregnancy. Again, decide what you want with this. I'm not here to speculate on medical stuff. Just hear me on this because I thought this was interesting. Okay. So she had claimed that she had preeclampsia. Tom Bauer points out, well, that's interesting because when Harry went through this and said this about, again, I'm switching time frame, so go back. When she allegedly suffered this miscarriage and Harry spoke about it and tried to take action against the Mail on Sunday for publishing that letter, even though she signed it Meghan Markle, she, in my opinion, always intended for that letter to be published. That's a whole other argument. Okay. So with that, he claims the stress was so much it caused the miscarriage. Okay. Well, if she had preeclampsia, Tom Bauer just points out that that's a complication that can lead to other serious complications. And interesting that when he was detailing things, he didn't, it's almost like they didn't realize she had preeclampsia back then, but since they've realized it now. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying? If one were skeptical, one would say, when he talked about it back then, he didn't mention that. I wonder if, I don't know, it could have been cooked up more recently because somebody else claimed they had preeclampsia and she thought, I want that story too. That's just my take on what Tom Bauer is leading us to there. I just thought that was interesting. Again, if you want to read it for yourself, I'm on page 80. Okay. Let's see here. During this time, I guess he was furiously calling Buckingham Palace. Again, he's the one that left, but he was furious. I'm guessing it's because he did not get, Tom Bauer didn't explicitly say this. I'm just reading between the lines and thinking it's because he didn't feel like he got what he wanted out of the deal. He had expected to walk away with a whole bunch of money and perks, and he didn't. And so he was furiously calling up Buckingham Palace. Well, he would want to speak to the Queen, and it said here that the Queen finally just got irritated and thought he was being completely unreasonable. Again, love Her Majesty the Queen. And the Queen suggested that Harry, quote, speak only with his father. And in turn, after that, Charles became frequently unavailable. I mean, can you blame him? You're petulant, however old he is. At that point, 30 some odd, late 30s son is calling to ask for, to demand for money. You know, when you move out of the house and you call your parents and you demand money. What? My mom watches this. Hi, Mom, I'm 40, however old I am. Where's my money? Come on, Mom, pay up. Okay. Anyway, it's just absolutely ridiculous. He lives in they both do. They live in their own little world. That's not new. I found that particularly funny that the Queen was like, "You're not my problem, call you dad." Oh my goodness gracious. All right, continuing on. They go into, I'm on page 81, they go into Harry's ghostwriter. So during the time of, I'm sure it's fine to say, but I still don't say it because there was a time where on YouTube, they didn't want you to say that thing that happened, the pandy from 2020. One of my favorite YouTubers, I love Game Grumps. They're so funny. They don't say it either because they know that back in the day, if you talked about it, it would like suppress your video. It's the same thing with the EP stuff. If you go too hard into that, I heard it suppresses your video. Anyway, they call it the Backstreet Tour, something like that. They just came up with something funny that makes me laugh. So whatever was happening globally with 2020 was happening. And during that time, I guess he was shopping for a ghostwriter for his book, his moneymaker that he needed. And this was interesting how they detail this. It's going to be hard to break down. Just take my word on it. So there's a lot of talk of ghostwriters because they couldn't meet in person. It was a lot of Zoom meetings, and Meghan insisted that she be in there. I'm making this face because we've all said it, like, she had to have helped with that book. Hello. Do you think Harry came up with that William and Catherine were so impressed with Meghan and they love Suits? Characters welcome you. No, he didn't say that. And obviously William and Catherine didn't say that. It could only come from Meghan. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But they were interviewing people over Zoom, and the person that they settled on, whatever. His name, I have it here. It's a weird last name. Bauer just kept calling him by, here you go, John Mohringer. Is that how you say it? Moehringer. I'll never say that again. So I'm just going to call him John. 56-year-old John was selected. Okay. Oh, he goes by JR. I'll just call him JR. JR Mohringer, however you say that. Okay. So this guy had ghostwritten Andre Agassi's prize-winning autobiography, Open. He saw it as a vital public service to be a ghostwriter, this guy. And it sounds like he had a tough upbringing. That was detailed about, I don't want to go into it. Bad things happened to his mother, and that's terrible. And he ended up writing a book about it. And that book ended up being turned into a film that was based on his life, and it was directed by George Clooney. So again, Tom Bauer didn't directly say that, but I'm led to believe that that's what made Meghan, not so much Harry, but Meghan select this guy. The other reason that Tom points out that this guy was probably selected is because these are Tom Bauer's words, very, very emotional. I think they called him deeply emotional and compared him to Harry in that way. Very deeply emotional. But the interesting part of this is that, a couple of things. His wife was an editor at Penguin Random House. So they thought, Tom Bauer called that deeply coincidental, that the same company that would be publishing the book. Anyway, decide what you want there. But Mohringer was encouraging Harry to use the ghostwriting sessions as therapy. And Harry very much was into that. So he did. And that's why we got all the crazy crap we got. Okay. Now, I'm going to jump ahead and then I'm going to come back because it'll make sense when I do. Let me find this part that I thought this was completely interesting and kind of put his book into perspective for me a little bit. Let me find it and then I'm going to come back to it. Here you go. Harry's purpose, as described by Tom Bauer, but I believe this very much. Harry's purpose with this book was to justify his decision to leave his family and to expose the British media as criminals responsible for his mother's taking out, um, and a cause of his misery. Okay. Whereas the ghostwriter's concept was to portray Harry, quote, as a bird trapped in a cage, a boy struggling to conquer his personal demons amid a dysfunctional family. So that was a big theme of the second half of this chapter that I found interesting, is that they weren't on the same page. And that's something that a lot of us know. The whole book was so odd. I didn't understand, a lot of us, I mean, none of us understood it, I think. And where it just seems so disjointed and just a list of grievances written in crayon. I said that all along. It seemed to be, I think the best way to describe it is that, I mean, it's pointed out here that neither man, talking about Harry or this JR, properly understood the other one. He talks about Zoom maybe being part of the problem, but I think it's just a difference in personalities. And I don't know this ghostwriter. I'm not standing up for him either way. I mean, he was a part of this, so, I can't stand up for him. But how could you get to know Harry either way? That dude, again, I can't imagine trying to have a real conversation with him. But they point out that they couldn't just get together and have thoughtful conversations. It was all done over the internet. So there seemed to be a big miscommunication between the two of them. So I really wonder, this ends before they even start writing. So I really wonder if that's going to lead into some of the disputes that I've heard happened in the writing process. So I'm curious to see where this is going. But it's interesting so far. And that kind of put in perspective, like, yeah, it really did seem all over the place. I just assume that's because Harry seems like that. But I wonder if some of it's to do with that. It was just two different. I really think neither of them saw where the big picture was. Maybe the ghostwriter more than Harry. I don't know if Harry ever sees the big picture, but it kind of lends to some of the disjointedness of the book itself. I just took that to be Harry being petulant, and again, he just wanted to talk about things like, my brother got the bigger breakfast sausages. And well, as pointed out in this part, he just wanted to talk about, quote, his penis. They talk about how many times he talked about that in the book. It was insane. Insane. All right. So going back to where we were, Harry was complaining about media intrusions in his conversations with JR. So I just want you to think about that because I'm stuck on this. So he was using this book to intrude upon the royal family and give private conversations and private, even if you don't believe they happen, private supposed conversations while complaining about intrusion. You cannot make up that level of hypocrisy. He desperately loathed the media, and yet, again, he depended on them, would go to them to try to get publicity. Think about what we know of Meghan and her working with the media, and yet he's using this book to complain about them while intruding on his family. Again, it's just unbelievable cycles and hypocrisy. So Tom Bauer goes into the JR was good at picking up on Harry's, quote, self-pity, Harry's descriptions of all of the things he partook in and, ran with that in the book. And the ghostwriter saw it as giving Harry a new identity. And I found that funny because it did. We didn't realize how pathetic Harry was until, I didn't. I knew that he was pathetic, but to read that book, I think that is the perfect word to describe him. He is spineless and weak and pathetic. I'd like to remind you all that he blamed William and Catherine. He did a million things in this book, but he blamed William and Catherine for his choice to wear that costume. That's just one example of 100 million of crazy things that he did in this book. And so again, I feel like it gave us a deeper glimpse into, oh my God, what is wrong with Harry? And I mean, things like his substance use. This chapter ends talking about him and the story of him using substances and having conversations with inanimate objects in Courtney Cox's bathroom. That's a thing that happened. Anyway, I just thought this was so juicy. Again, the different pages that they were on, that kind of sums up Harry in general. He doesn't seem to understand big concepts, and he doesn't know what's going on around him. So he's just getting everything completely wrong. It's not that Meghan gets it right, but I think she is very calculated. I don't think he's capable. I don't think he understands what's going on. Oh, here you go. On page 84, they go into his mention of a word that rhymes with weenus 8 times, and then the word Todger 6 times. And it's not mentioned here, but I believe at the time people did comparisons, and he mentioned that kind of stuff. I think like way more than he mentioned his kids. I mean, just stuff like that. It's just gross. Like, what are you doing? Ugh, nasty. Anyway, also that I love that Tom Bauer used this opportunity to remind us all that talking about that stuff prompted, quote, his memory that Diana used the same cream on her lips. Ugh, gross. What are you doing? Anyway, he goes into the hypocrisy of Harry describing his, first time doing whatever he did behind the pub, and detailing it, knowing that the woman's identity would easily be found out and it would be potentially embarrassing for her. And the way he spoke about her was just, it was rude. He called her the much older woman, and it turns out she was only a couple of years older, and they'd known each other for years. And who cares if they were both willing participants? Like, why is it okay for him to talk about this if she was not, giving her okay to talk about that private matter? Again, it doesn't seem to matter. If it's okay with him, it's fine. But if it's not okay with him, oh, it's intrusive. It's, all this stuff. Again, hypocrisy. Oh, they talk about how come the ghostwriter and nobody else questioned the double standards here, his hatred for the criticism, any criticism whatsoever of Meghan, and yet willingly he's criticizing and attacking everybody. Charles, Camilla, I'm so sorry, Camilla, Catherine, William. I saw William and Camilla and made it Camilla. But yeah, he's willfully attacking all them in the book. Again, I know we know all this. It's just to see it in writing like this and so eloquently spelled out by Tom Bauer, I just think is brilliant. This is what I want people not familiar with this to understand, is again how awful the two of them are and how just covered in lies and unbelievable hypocrisy like this. I think it's just completely fascinating because most people just aren't wired up like this. But you have Harry and Meghan. That's going to do it for the chapter. I just thought it was so juicy and so good. I wanted to break it up on its own and talk about that. The next chapter is Netflix, so we'll get into that. Let's see where we're headed, just so you know. So let's see. That was chapter 9, Freedom. The next chapter, 10, is Netflix. 11 is My Truth. 12 is The Me You Can't See. Security, Spare. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. So I'm excited to dive into all this with you. Check back for more of these as I continue on with my book recap, my book review, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you reading the book? Have you started reading? Let me know that. Are you going to read this book? What did you think of this chapter? Do you have any questions about anything? Let me know all of it. And again, a huge thank you to Tom Bauer for writing this fantastic book. If you ask me, do I recommend it? I do. I really do. I'm trying to do the best I can covering the highlights, but there's a million, small details dropped in that there's no way for me to talk about. I mean, the thing is 400 I think like 430, 450, something like that pages. So there's going to be a ton of stuff that I'm not able to talk about that you'll catch that maybe I didn't catch. So definitely recommend picking it up. Plus, we love Tom Bowers. So we want to get this book, keep it at number one. So a lot of people are saying, let's make it outsell Harry's. Heck yeah, all day long. I think that's great. All right, that's going to do it for me. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you for all your love and support. Your comments mean the world to me. So many of you have said that you're really enjoying my book reviews. That means the world to me. I'm going to be just reading all weekend, pushing out, what did I just say? Weekend, putting out this content for you all. So do check back lots and I'll continue getting out as much as I can. I want to keep up. I want to keep going, and I want you guys to be able to have it as quick as I can possibly get it out. So thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody who's hitting the hype button and hitting the thumbs up and recommending this. It means the world to me. It really does. Be sure to keep sharing it and telling everybody that I've got it and I'm reading it, and I appreciate that. And I can't wait to bring you more chapters very soon. All right, that's going to do it for me. Have the best day. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, how are you? Oh my God. This chapter, I don't know if I did it justice here, but I'm telling you, it was really good. This was probably the longest chapter. It was, I don't know, 13, 14 pages, something like that. But I really enjoyed this one. I can't even put my finger on why. I think because it showed more, I mean, just every page. If you saw them, it's just highlight, just marking everything, because every page was like some revelation of something awful or something, I don't know, duplicitous or something scammy that Harry and Meghan were up to. And everything they do, again, goes against everything they've said in all the interviews they've given, right? About, we were penniless. No, you weren't. We didn't know what to do. They already had people lined up, agents. They were already cooking up this Netflix deal. They were already working on his book, like right off the bat, things like that, So I just find it completely fascinating. Anyway, if you stay tuned this long, I don't know, tell me anything. If you have a name you want me to use, let me know that. Let's see, what can we do? I don't know. I'm filming this at 1:45 in the morning, so you just comment anything you want. How about that? But I'm going to keep going. I just can't stop with this book. I'm so into it. I just can't lose my voice. So I keep drinking lots of liquids and honey and tea and all that. But I'm going to keep going because I'm so into this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being so kind to me. I love reading your comments. Keep them coming, and I'll keep the chapters coming, and I'll be back really soon. So check back. Take care. Bye-bye.